Hello everyone. Today's session is about synchronizing Windows file server to cloud. As far as the cloud is concerned, it can be any kind of CentreStack powered cloud storage services. If you are a managed service provider, you can install the CentreStack server in your own data center and then provide that service to your customers. Or it could be the Gladinet Cloud Team Edition, which is, we eat our own dog food, so we know how to host the solution. And the scenario here is we have an original file server. We want to synchronize files and folders to the cloud. And later we have a replacement server and also have a remote branch office server. So now let's get started. We have a file server now. It's a Windows 2012 R2, so that's logging into it. It's connected to an Active Directory, so it's part of the Active Directory. We already have two folders set up. One is called Test Folder 1 and the other one is called Test Folder 2. Test Folder 1 is just a simple folder, and then Test Folder 2 will be published as a network share. So later on we are going to be demonstrating two different ways to synchronize folders to the cloud. One is just pure backup purpose, synchronizing upward, and the other one is more like migration, so with the users, permissions, and Active Directory they're all preserved when it's synchronized to the cloud. So now we are just doing some preparation work. So as I'm doing here, I'm adding two users, tenant 1, employee 1, and tenant 1, employee 2. So I added two Active Directory users to the folders here. So I also have two subfolders, subfolder A and subfolder B. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set up permissions so then employee number 1 will be able to access one folder but not the other, and also employee number 2 will be able to access the other folder but not the first one. So then each of them have access to a specific folder. The preparation work here is later on when the folder are synchronized to the cloud, we want to check the folder permission to make sure that employee 1 can access the employee 1 folder and then employee 2 can access employee 2 folder. So now we are just setting things up. So we need to get rid of the domain user, and then we will be able to add some users here. So we just added some, this is employee number 2, and then so we need to disable the inheritance before we can remove the domain user. So let's just go ahead and do so. Go to advanced, and then we can disable the inheritance of the folder. So now we can remove the domain user, and then so the folder will be specific for the user. So this is kind of like how you set up home directories, right? So you may have a folder, all the users have specific permissions for a specific folder. It's kind of like a simplified version of folder control for the demonstration purposes. So now let's go ahead and set up the other folder. So it takes a little bit of time. And after it's set up, I would like to rename the folders, so then just by look at the folder we know who is who, which folder has which user allowed to access the folder. So there's subfolder E1 and subfolder E2, which matches the two users we have. So we spend a lot of time setting up permission. The goal is to let you know that the permissions can be preserved when it's synchronized to the cloud. So now let's go ahead and install the file server. So let's set our goals. We have two folders, test folder 1 and test folder 2. And test folder 1 just a folder, no permission, so we can synchronize it in a really easy way. And then after we do that, I will show you how to migrate the network share with the share permission and folder permission, and together with the users and the folder content. So with that all set, we are ready to start the demonstration, synchronizing Windows File Server folder to the cloud. So we are connecting to an administrator account on one of the instances out there on the internet. We will start the process by downloading the server agent. The server agent is both a file and folder agent and also an Active Directory agent. It's a pretty small binary, so installation should be pretty quick. Just take a few minutes and it should be done. Maybe not even a minute. So let's see. It's done, and then a reboot is pending. So just go ahead and restart the server here. And after restart, we will be logging back in as the same user who installed the server agent. So now let's log in. So after logging in, there will be different applications starting up, background services starting up. So let's just wait for all dust to settle down, and you are going to be showing a logging diagram, a dialog to the cloud account, and the server agent management console will show up. So now the first thing I will show you is the easy one, like you're going to be synchronizing a folder upwards to the cloud and maintain bi-directional synchronization, but more for a backup purpose. There's no permission, there's no user, so a folder is just a folder. So now we just do an attach folder, attach the folder to the cloud, and after the attachment, let's go to the web browser and check on our files and folders. I remember the folder is called test folder 1, so it's test folder 1 right here, and then the files and folders showing up. So we can do a side-by-side comparison, right? So then test folder 1, the contents in the web browser is coming from the content from the local Windows file server, so the content has been synchronized to the cloud. So that's good. So now with that, I'm going to show you the second way, which is the more sophisticated way. It's called migration. So the first thing migration does is it identifies the server and then the network share. So migration is done by network share. So migrate the user folder permission, and then you can see the user that you can import into the cloud system here. So we're going to be importing employee number 1, employee number 2, and also a group, the domain group. And then it's done, right? So the process is pretty straightforward. It's simple. You do a migration, and then this folder is suddenly synchronized to the cloud and maintain bi-directional synchronization. So the folder is called test2, and then inside the parentheses, that's where it's coming from, so you know who's who. If you have multiple file server agents, then if they're all called test folder 2, you don't know who's who, right? So then this folder comes in. So you can see the subfolder employee number 1 and subfolder employee number 2. And you can see the folder permission. The permission, we didn't do any manual step to set up the folder permission. So this folder permission is coming from the file server, and the users are coming from the Active Directory. So if we do an inspection of the user manager, you can see T1E1 and T1E2 are showing up, and it's called proxy the AD user. So the migration is not just migrating the files and folders and then set up the two-way synchronization. It's also getting the users, the Active Directory users, into the system here. So then the same Active Directory user using the same credential can access the same set of files and folders with the existing permission they had on the Windows file server. So this is a very powerful feature to maintain the permissions. There's a lot of consumer grade synchronization tools out there that can just synchronize the folder for you, but what about the collaboration? What about the folder permission? What about the subfolder permission? That's all you probably don't want to set it up the second time, right? So you just maintain synchronized to your file server. So we are done, right? So we synchronize as a review of what we've just done. We have 2 folders synchronized upward to the cloud and then maintain two-way synchronization. I'm showing you the services because this is server agent, so it runs as a service. The Gladinet Cloud Access service is the main services. There are 3 of them together, the FileMon, the Mount, and there's also Cloud Access service. So this is the main service. It runs in the background as a Windows service, doing the synchronization in the background. So that's a good fit for the server. So now you can just business as usual. The users don't feel much differences when they're in the local office. They just continue to access the local file server. But when they are outside of the office, so now they can access the same files and folders from web browser, from iOS device, from mobile, other mobile devices. So what we are going to do now is, you see I'm opening up the snapshot, and I'm going to take the server all the way back to the fresh installation. So what I'm simulating here is the server crashed. So the server crashed. I acquired a new file server, and now what, right? Because in the past, if I lost the server, I lost the server. I have to, let's say, restore it from a local backup. But now, because the files and folders are in the cloud, so now I can synchronize the files and folders, back into my local office, right? So it's business continuity. So then, during this period of time, users can continue to access the files and folders from the cloud because it's always there. And now what I'm trying to do is just to make a second copy of the same files and folders back down, even after the file server crash. I just have a replacement. So now, as you can see here in the replacement server, I don't have the test folder 1 and I don't have the test folder 2 because it's brand new. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set up the file server agent one more time on this new file server. So then it can synchronize the files and folders back down. So let's see. Yeah, I don't like this IE enhanced security, so make the demonstration a little bit harder to do, but that's fine. It's taken care of. So let's just go ahead and continue. So I'm going to download the file server agent one more time on this new file server. So after we set up a new file server, the file server agent requires .NET 2. So we just need to go to the manage roles and features and enable the .NET 3.5, which is .NET 2 based framework. So just go ahead and enable it, and that will be the prerequisite for installing the file server agent or the cloud server agent. It's not just the file server agent, but also an agent for Active Directory connections to proxy over the server agent. So now let's go ahead and do the same installation again, and it's pretty small binary, so setup time should be like a minute or two, or 5 seconds as we are doing here. And then do the reboot, and we will be in business after. So after reboot, this is again, this is the new file server. The scenario we are emulating here is the server, the old original server has crashed. Now we acquired a new file server, and fortunately the files and folders has been synchronized to the cloud for business continuity. And now I'm setting up a local file server again, a brand new one, and I like to have a copy in local environment. So for the local performance reason, and then for anything an internet glitch or anything like that happens, I still have a local copy to work on. So now I have lots of folders, right? So already synchronized to the cloud. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to do link to local. I identify the test folder one, and now I just need to link it back to my local folder. So I can define the folder I want to link it back to. So ideally I just call it test folder 1, same location, even though it's not required to be called the same name, but calling it the same name can reduce the confusion later on. So keep it simple. If it was called test folder 1, we're going to be continuing to synchronize it down to test folder 1, and if it's test folder 2, we will continue to synchronize it down as test folder 2. So now we just do 2 separate link to local. So as you can see here, the files and folders has already been synchronized downwards to the server here. We just do a create new folder. That's the manual step the only manual step we did, and the rest the file server agent just took over, right? So as a quick review, we synchronized the files, 2 folders from the original file server to the cloud, and then we have a replacement file server, and then we synchronize those 2 folders back down to the replacement server. So now I'm going to get into the next scenario. So let's say I'm going to open up a remote branch office. So the remote branch office, they prefer to have a local copy of the file as well, for local performance reason. So this time I'm not going to be using a Windows file server. I'm going to be using Windows 10, right? Even though we say server agent runs on server type of operating systems, because most of the time you're using a Windows server for collaboration. But let's say I have a remote branch office. There's only a few handful of employees there. I don't need a powerful Windows 2012 server for that. I can set up a Windows 10 enterprise and use that as a file server in a small scale kind of scenario. So now the server agent can be installed on Windows 10, no problem at all. So we will be repeating the same process to set up the file server agent here. So same step. And remember, the server agent, the concept, it belongs to the whole company, right? So then if you want to set up server agent, you need to be the tenant admin or the team admin to be able to do so. So now we just need to download the server agent software and install it on this Windows 10. And remember, in this Windows 10, we are emulating the remote branch office. So we go to a remote branch office, only has a handful of employees there, but everyone prefers to have a local copy, local file server for performance reason, and then for reliability, so in case the remote location cannot access the internet. So then they can work offline locally. So we are downloading the server agent here in the Windows 10, and we need to just set it up. It requires .NET 2, again, so no problem. So we are going to go to Windows 10 and set up .NET Framework 2 as the prerequisite. The Windows 10 is a little bit different. You need to go to the programs and features and enable Windows features. So the step is a little bit different from the Windows server box. Server box, you can go to the server manager and do a manage role and features. But for the client type of machine, such as Windows 10, you just go to program and file and features and enable Windows component. So that's pretty standard process. And after it's done, then we will be ready to go. So now let's go ahead and find our installation program and just do the installation. So yeah, click through it, and it should be pretty quick. So maybe how many seconds here? Done, right? So yes, about 5 seconds. So a restart is required, as this is the same as the Windows Server machine. After you install the server agent, a reboot is required. So just go ahead and do so. And after that, we will log back in as the same user who installed the server agent. The server agent, the logging dialog will show up, so we can connect back to the exact same account. So all these server agent needs to be logging into the same account, and then that account needs to be a tenant admin account. All the file server agent belongs to the tenant, not belong to individual users. So the tenant admin has to do so, do the setup and connections and all that stuff. So same procedure, link to local. So we'll do the same, link the test folder 1 folder to the C drive test folder 1, and then we will be linking the test folder 2 folder to a local test folder 2 folder. The steps are pretty simple here. So now it's all set. And let's check our test folder 1 and test folder. So you see that the contents are already there. In the real environment, if you have 500 gig, 1 terabyte, it's not going to be this fast, right? In the demo, we just have a few files and folders, so it appears to be really quick. But in reality, when you have big folders, it takes time. So now that's so what we have now, we have a remote branch office file server, we have a replacement server, and we also have the folder in the cloud. So now what we are going to do is to simulate file editing from multiple places to show the bi-directional synchronization. So we're going to be uploading a file. It has a line 1, and let's upload it from the web portal directly. So it's web upload file. So because it's two-way synchronization, so the upload in the web portal, it should come back down to the other two locations. One is in the branch office, and one is in the replacement, let's say main office, but the replacement server. So the file has already synchronized in, right? So now let's go ahead and add another line 2. So the update from the replacement server, which is in the main office. So it's saved. So now let's see. We save in the local, it should synchronize to the cloud, right? So let's just do a quick validation of the change and click here, and you can see the preview, the web portal preview already showing the changes. So the change has been synchronized upward to the cloud. So now let's check the branch office. The branch office also gets the change. So now let's do the modification from the branch office, the remote branch office, and see if the change synchronized to the cloud and also synchronized back into the main office. So now you can do collaborations from multiple places. So what do? We have business continuity now, right? And then we elevate the local Windows file server from a local building into the cloud. So now we enabled remote branch offices to do the collaboration, and now multiple places can make the changes to the same file. So now there's 3 different versions of this file now. So it has been synchronizing to multiple places. And then also when we check the main file server, the replacement server, the change also came in. So let's say, what if we say, hey, those 2 changes are not necessarily, it's kind of bad changes, we want to revert back to the original version. So we can come over here and then revert the file back to its own previous version. So if we do a preview, the file has been reverted back to line 1, which is the original modification. So let's see. So it hasn't, the revert hasn't come in yet. So let's wait for a few more seconds to check. Let's see. Let's check the other location to see if it comes in already. For the other location, yep, it came in for the remote office already. Now let's check here, and it came in for the main office as well. So that's not just synchronization, but also version control, right? So you gain a lot of the features here. So first of all, you have a local office in the building, but now you elevate it into the cloud. Not just elevate it into the cloud, you now have version control, and once you have version control, you can synchronize it back down to a replacement server. You can also synchronize it to a remote office. 3 different places now are happily collaborating with each other. Thank you.